Hello, you. Gonna be a quick one today, but I did say that I would catch you up on where things were for me, cancer-wise. So, I have seen the head and neck surgeon. For those who don't know, I have leukemia. It has settled into my skin and my lungs. It's very rare leukemia. There are less than 30 people in the UK with it. I found out I had leukemia as I was recovering from ovarian cancer, and just for giggles, I have got a brain tumour. Very, very quick recap of the reason for seeing a head and neck surgeon. I discovered about 2 months ago that I had a lump at the back of my right ear. It's a very small lump. It was causing absolutely no symptoms. I only noticed it as I was washing my hair. It's about the size of a small lentil. And over the past 2 months, it has grown. And it is now much larger and is oddly shaped. It's shaped a bit like a donut, a very small donut. But it's raised around the outside and has like a crater in the middle. It means that this has to be a quick upload because wearing glasses hurts. It also means my voice is slightly affected. I have 3 lymph nodes from the earlobe running down to the collarbone, which are raised. One of them quite painful. So I finally got to see a head and neck surgeon, and he was charming and erudite and seemed caring, and I thought all good signs. Saw me 5 minutes early, which remarkable. First of all, saw his SPR, which senior registrar in Britain. That is 1 grade below a consultant. He was great. He took a history, which means he hadn't read the referral letter. He then examined me for a bit and then talked me through what he thought so far, which was it is bone, but probably not a sarcoma, which is good because I really don't want to collect another cancer. And then we talked about ways in which we could find out more. And he said we probably would want to do imaging because PET scan's not the best thing, which is what I've had. I've had lots of PET scans, but this one was specifically to look at the area around the lump. And he said not the best thing for bones. We would probably want CT or maybe MRI, but I need to speak to my boss, which is fine. Went off. Gosh, about a minute later, he was back with the consultant. The consultant, as I said, was charming and lovely. He asked me a couple of questions and examined the areas behind my ears and under my chin, which I presume is looking at thyroid. Didn't touch the lymph nodes, and announced, he didn't examine for very long. It was about half the time my GP did. Then said, yes, I know what it is. It's not cancer. There is a special type of more porous, spongy bone that is around the ear, which helps with hearing. He said, I can see on the right side behind the ear you have a small scar. And I said, yes, I had ear surgery in January 2000. And he said, right, well, then I can see exactly what's happened. This bone spongy stuff has grown around where they probably put the drill to do the surgery. And I said, okay. I said, but why is it suddenly growing now and not nearly 26 years ago when I had the surgery? And he said, well, you may not have noticed. And I thought, I effing well noticed this. I said, but it's nothing to worry about. It's certainly not Langerhans. Now, he had already said to me that, to his knowledge, there had not been a case of Langerhans at that hospital. This is a major London teaching hospital. They had not had a case for about 14 or 15 years. My dermatologist, who is at the same hospital, has said she has been imposed as a consultant for 12 years, and she knows they haven't had one. So I am the first one. So I thought, well, how do you know it's not Langerhans when you've never seen it? How on earth could you possibly know? And I thought, oh, well. And I said, well, what about the lymph nodes and the other things? And he said, yeah, it's probably just a coincidence. You've got a cold or something. Now, those of you who want to zoom in, I won't frighten you by doing it myself. My nose, which is normally straight, is starting to come out at that side. Same side as the ear. My cheek on that side is also swollen. Thankfully, it's not giving me problems with eating. Swallowing is slightly difficult because of the lymph nodes. And he said, well, that's probably a coincidence. And I said, well, what about the other Langerhans or leukemia symptoms, the night sweats, the weight fluctuations, the itchy skin, except itch doesn't really cover it, just profoundly itchy skin. Why have they come back? Don't know. And then he said, well, I know it's very difficult for people with cancer, and they often become more heightened to changes in their body. Maybe it's just that. And it didn't sink in until I was on my way home, and I thought, he was implying it's in my head. This effing lump and these lymph nodes are not in my head. The fact that I'm going to have to start looking up on YouTube how to use contouring properly, because my nose now looks as though it's sort of trying to head in that direction. These things, yeah, please. There was no follow-up. There was no suggestion even of, you need to go back to a haematologist and ask these questions, or maybe your GP can do. Nothing. He'd not done any diagnostics. He'd examined me for certainly less than a minute. And a lot of that was spent on the thyroid, which I wasn't complaining, I had no problems with. But anyway, so I got home and I thought, this isn't right. And so I've thought about it, and I'm going to go back to my GP next week. Hopefully this will come out on Sunday. I'm going to go back to my GP next week and say, what the hell? I can't just, be trotted off with a pat on the head and you'll be fine, when these things are clearly happening and no one, apart from my GP, seems to have an interest in sorting it out. So I'm going to do that and see what they say. In the meantime, at least my various lotions and potions my dermatologist has given me are working on the itchy skin, except my left arm. Don't know why, just my left arm. That is still profoundly itchy and I have lesions on it. But the rest of it isn't doing it, so that's a win. Night sweats, yeah, I know the routine now. So the only real buggery is that at this time of year it's better because it's not profoundly hot outside, but by the time you've changed your night clothes, had a shower, cooled down, put new night clothes on, get back into bed, and you're not sleepy anymore. It takes ages to get back to sleep. So as I say, I kind of know the drill now. So it's still a don't know. I feel mentally as though I'm back to the beginning, where I'm seeing gazillions of doctors and they're all saying, oh, don't know really, until you get one that does. Now, last time I had a different GP and she was fantastic because she would not let it go and just made a pest of herself until it was sorted out. she's now retired. I have a new GP who I think is very, very good, and I'm really fortunate that I'm with that practice. So I'm hoping that he's going to take the case up and do whatever needs doing. I must admit, I don't know, but then what do I know about head and neck? But if you want to look at the nose is sort of from about here, is slightly going, is more at one side than you see here, and the same with the cheeks, that this side is more pronounced. So we don't know. And this is cancer for you. We don't know, and I am still having to sort of do battle to find out. Hopefully that won't take too long with my GP and my haematologist's help, and I will keep you informed of what's going on in that direction. Until then, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Bye.